Hey, it's Jay. I wanted to extend a special thanks to those of you who have listened and left reviews on iTunes for this podcast. Please leave a review if you haven't done so already. We sincerely appreciate it. We're producing this show independently, and unfortunately, that is not free. We have to pay for digital hosting space, software, equipment, websites, and travel out of our own pockets. But we'd love to keep this show going as long as possible. Pledge your support by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/pledge. Thanks for your support and enjoy the show. Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, powered by ScentLock Enforcer, episode number 182. Craig Meyer. Hunting mature, pressured bucks, the element of surprise, and eliminating human sound. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Today's show is sponsored by the ScentLock Enforcer, Advanced Takedown Tree Stands, and Morse's Sporting Goods. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey, this is Hal Blood from Big Woods Bucks, and you're about to push play on my favorite podcast, the Big Buck Registry.
Hi, this is John Stallone with Interviews with the Masters podcast. And when I'm not editing my own podcast, I'm listening to the Big Buck Registry with Jay Scott.
My name's Steve Pass, and I'm a deer hunter from Pennsylvania. And you're about to push play on my favorite deer hunting podcast, the Big Buck Registry.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. As I say each and every week, thank you for pushing that play button on your audio device and tuning in to what we bring to you so that you can listen to the world's best deer hunters, where we dissect their habits and strategies, and you can put it into your playbook and do it too. And when I say we, I mean, as usual, joining me from Ohio, my good friend and co-host, Dusty Phillips. How are you, Dusty?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, we're got a few days till we're in Las Vegas for the SHOT Show.
T-minus, 2 days we'll be flying out, and I'm leaving out of Manchester, New Hampshire, and I'm flying to meet you and Jim Keller from the Deer News, and he's flying down from Michigan. We're going to meet in, I think it's Columbus, right? They were flying out of?
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio.
And we're taking Frontier Airlines direct all the way to Las Vegas. We get touchdown around 10 o'clock at night, and then it's SHOT Show time.
I can't wait, Jay. It's going to be a fabulous time, and I look forward to seeing a lot of people that been guests on the show and meeting up with old friends and meeting a whole lot of new friends.
There's a whole catalog of back episodes that people we've talked to and on occasion have met them on East Coast small events. But there's the whole group that we actually haven't met in person that I'm looking forward to meeting up with a lot of old friends that we've talked to and have developed relationships long distance and finally putting a face to a name and a voice. So it's going to be very cool. And we're going to go live a lot from Vegas. So if you're interested in tuning into what we got going on, we're going to try to bring you with us if you aren't capable of going to the SHOT Show and want to see what that's all about. Because there's always this buzz about it, but a lot of times you just can't get there. I mean, this is our first time. We've never made it there. So we think we should catalog our daily events and show you what we're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be an epic time, Jay. And having Jim with us, and this is going to be a great time, and be able to interact with people just like us that are in the industry, and
right.
And it's going to be great for us, and great to meet new people and new businesses and get more hunting stories lined up while we're there. It's just it's great for the audience too, and definitely look for us to go live quite often at the SHOT Show.
Yes, very much so. And so stay tuned for that. We do have a ample supply of safety harnesses. I know the season is kind of winding down across the country, but we do have an ample supply of harnesses that have been donated from listeners and guests from the show. Crystal Mahoney and Taylor Hance donated a bunch. Neil Pendleton has sent out quite a bit. So thank you to everybody that's donated. And if you still need a harness, please reach out to us, Jim at bigbuckregistry.com, Jay at bigbuckregistry.com, or Dusty at bigbuckregistry.com if you are in need of a safety harness from our safety harness project. Dusty, this week we're going to New Jersey to speak to a fellow by the name of Craig Meyer, who has some very interesting tactics and techniques about how he kills big bucks in New Jersey. He actually uses a bicycle to patrol the area around where he's hunting and goes in and stealthily gets in quiet, undetected as best he can within about 100 yards of where he thinks a buck bed is, and hangs from trees and keeps them guessing. So we're going to find out how he goes all about that in just a few minutes. Before we get there, let's turn to Jim Keller with the Deer News.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story this week, Sabotage Tree Stand Seriously Injures Wareham Man. This story was originally featured on the southcoasttoday.com website and was written by Mark Folko. Matthew Pearl, 54, of Wareham, Massachusetts, a husband, father of 5, a self-employed carpenter, and an avid hunter since he was a teenager, was a victim of a hunting accident involving a sabotaged tree stand on December 23rd, nearly falling to his death. Pearl was hunting legally near his home during the deer muzzleloader season when he plummeted 25 feet to the ground, breaking his back after his stand collapsed out from under him. It was dark and cold in the upper 20s when he began to climb up into his stand before daylight around 6 a.m., as most hunters do, so all would be quiet when legal hunting hours began around 6:45 a.m. It was a new lock-on type tree stand that he had set up this year, so it was in good condition. To access his stand, he had foot pegs screwed into the tree. As he stood on the top peg, he yanked on the stand, giving it a pull test to make sure it was tight to the tree and the strap hadn't loosened before stepping onto it. Confident the stand was secure, Pearl stepped from the pegs onto the base platform of the stand and stood up. The base immediately collapsed and went out from under him like a trap door, and he tumbled to the ground. He began kicking his feet to try and keep his body straight with his feet pointed down. All I could think of was, "Don't fall on your head, don't fall on your head," Pearl recalled of the terrifying moment. While he was able to keep his head up, his body was level when he hit the ground and he landed flat on his back. The ground was frozen solid and there was no give. "I hit so hard it knocked the wind out of me and I was gasping for air," said Pearl. "It took me 25 minutes before I started breathing somewhat normally, but hurt. Then I began checking to see if I could wiggle my fingers and toes, and I could, so that was a relief, but I hurt so bad there was no chance of getting up. I thought about rolling over and crawling on my belly, but if I had broken ribs and tried to roll, a broken rib could puncture a lung, and then I'd be done for sure." Pearl had his cell phone, which he was able to retrieve from a pocket, and called his oldest son, Brian, who knew where the stand was. Then he called his wife, Anne. They met the Wareham paramedics, EMTs, and police and firefighters at the head of the trail and guided them through the woods. Once they got to Pearl, they had to cut some of his hunting clothes in order to get him on a board, and then carried him 300 yards through the woods to a nearby cranberry bog where an ambulance was waiting. X-rays revealed 3 broken vertebrae and a twisted spine. Luckily, he wasn't paralyzed, but he underwent major surgery, with 11-inch rods being used to repair the injury, leaving a 24-inch scar on his back. Pearl was transferred to a rehabilitation hospital where he is undergoing intense physical therapy for 3 weeks. After that, he'll be recovering at home with lots more physical therapy before he can even expect to feel somewhat back to normal. The prognosis is that he'll be out of work for 6 to 8 months. What bothers Pearl even more is that one of his sons was hunting on that stand only a week before. Upon inspection of the stand following the accident, it was determined that it had been sabotaged, Pearl said. According to Pearl, the 2 rubber-coated cables on either side of the stand that support the base have been deliberately cut almost all the way through, leaving both cables with just a few strands of wire to hold the base in place, making it appear that the stand was okay. Those few wires snapped under Pearl's weight when he stepped onto the stand. Hidden trail cameras in the area may lead to the criminal and bring him or her or them in. Anyone with information about the accident is asked to contact the Wareham Police at 508-295-1212 or call the department's anonymous tip line at 508-291-2300. 5 men nabbed for host of deer hunting violations. This story was originally featured on the Times-Picayune of New Orleans website and was reported by Todd Mason. After responding to a tip about night hunting in West Monroe, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries agents cited 5 men for a host of wildlife violations, the agency reported on Friday, January 6. Agents ticketed Joe Willis, 37, of West Monroe, Dana J. Murray, 66, of Monroe, and Bert T. Willis, 62, of St. John's, Florida, for possession of an untagged deer on December 12th. Joe Willis was also cited for hunting deer during illegal hours, possession of an illegally taken deer, and failing to comply with deer tagging requirements. Agents also cited John Pineda, 32, of Benton, Arkansas, and Edward Grant, Jr., 22, of Bryant, Arkansas, for hunting without non-resident basic and big game hunting licenses, failing to comply with deer tagging requirements, criminal trespassing, and possession of an illegally taken deer on December 14th. While responding to the tip, agents stopped a pickup truck near a hunting camp and found severed 8-point and 7-point deer heads in the bed of the truck. According to agents, the driver of the vehicle, Joe Willis, admitted to shooting a separate deer at night in a field adjacent to the camp. At the camp, the agents found an ice chest full of deer meat, which they say Murray and Bert Willis admitted belonged to them. The men, however, had said a separate ice chest full of meat belonged to Grant and Pineda, who had already returned to Arkansas, the department reported. Joe Willis told agents the 8-point head was from a deer he legally shot on his land in Luna, but the 7-point was shot by Grant on December 11th. He also said Pineda had shot an antlerless deer behind the camp the same day. Agents say Joe Willis also admitted to shooting 3 bucks earlier in the season that he did not tag. They seized his .30-30 rifle, spotlight, and all the deer meat. At the department's request, agents from Arkansas Game and Fish interviewed Grant and Pineda on December 14th, and they both admitted to shooting the deer without licenses. Grant told the Arkansas agents he and Pineda went onto private property to retrieve one of the deer. Failing to comply with deer tagging requirements and hunting without non-resident and big game hunting licenses each brings a $100 to $350 fine and up to 30 days in jail for each offense. Hunting deer during illegal hours brings a $900 to $950 fine and up to 120 days in jail. Possession of an illegally taken deer carries a $400 to $950 fine and up to 120 days in jail. The men may also face civil restitution totaling $4,872 for 3 illegally taken deer. Criminal trespassing brings a $100 to $500 fine and up to 30 days in jail. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here's Craig Meyer.
Craig Meyer, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm feel honored to be on here and talk some hunting with you.
Well, I appreciate that. We're psyched to have you. We've been following you a little bit. We've kind of been eavesdropping on some of your tactics and antics on Facebook, and something kind of popped out, and we noticed that you're a pretty darn good deer hunter.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess taking a lot of the best assets from some of the best hunters that I know and see, and I've kind of tried to, I guess, blend them together and make it a successful technique that I use when I hunt.
Cool.
I'm pretty much everywhere, but I'm living in New Jersey, and aside from doing the hunting, I'm a full-time police officer, so that career allows me to hunt a lot. So that's a good thing.
That is nice. That is very nice. Well, we want to pick your brain, and we want to find out what's going on in there, because you're doing something right, and anytime we can dissect the habits of world-class deer hunters, we're going to put you in that category. Tell us, so you're in New Jersey. Tell me about growing up. Are you from New Jersey originally, or are you a transplant?
Yes, believe it or not, I am born and raised here in New Jersey. I'm in Somerset County. It's a nice area. I was very lucky, to have a father who, he was a best friend of mine, and he had gotten me into hunting at a very early age. Yeah, and I had me drag my first deer out with him at 4 years old. I go help him tag along. Couldn't even really fit in the boots, but I was hooked from then on out. And he was a fish and game officer here in the state of New Jersey, and with kidding. That, Neat. he was able to accrue a lot of good property. And so I continued on and keeping the leases and the property, and continuing good relationships with landowners. And for that reason, I still have some of the same properties that he grew up hunting, and I still have those today. So nice. I'm from New Jersey, but I'm lucky to hunt land a little different than the norm out here.
Okay,
so
gotcha. Now, just listening to you talk, I don't detect a New Jersey accent. Is that intentional, or is that just something that naturally?
No, the area I'm from, the accent you're really only going to hear from the northern part of the state.
Okay.
The closer you get to New York and the inner city, that's when it really starts to come out from people. The area I'm in, it's a horse farm area. I guess, horseback riding and showing horses and cattle is pretty predominant from this small area that I'm from.
Gotcha.
It's a small town called Bedminster, and right now I live on a large cattle farm and right along the river, and it looks and acts and feels like I'm in the Midwest when I'm not. I guess I'm tricking myself, and I'm able to deal with the the state for what it is in that respect. So
Gotcha. All right. So you're kind of making it feel the way you need it to feel to make it exciting and interesting.
yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Now, tell me about the terrain in New Jersey where you're hunting.
It's very mixed. Although we live in a very small state, depending upon where you are in the state, it could be as little as a half hour to an hour change. We have a little bit of everything. I mean, in South Jersey, we have pines and the bug, the chigger, is a pest down there for a lot of the southern Jersey hunters. You get the sandy soil area, and then you can go further east, and then you're hitting even more sand because you're near the beach, we have shoreline.
Okay.
You work your way up, the middle of the state, I guess central, leaning towards north, and now you're getting into really good agriculture, ton of farming, soybeans, corn. It is a garden state. People forget that, but I guess central to north, northern part of New Jersey, we do a lot of growing. South Jersey does a lot too, more berries and things like that. And then as you work north into New Jersey, you start hitting the mountain ranges, and then you have a ton of, a lot of bears. We have big black bears up here. We've got mountainous areas, a lot of rocky terrain, and it's so interesting to me that the state changes so vastly as you travel up and down. You really, people don't realize that. All they see is when they fly into Newark Airport, they see a bunch of high rises and smog, and they think that's really what all it is. But it's not. So.
Gotcha. Well, that's very interesting. I mean, because sometimes you have a picture of New Jersey that's not completely accurate. So it sounds like you're in the agricultural farmland area of New Jersey. And I got to tell you, every time I drive through New Jersey, I always see deer. Always. In fact, one of my
we do have a high population.
High population. And one of the I remember I was coming back from Virginia, I think, and there was a big snowstorm that had come through, and it's like burned. This image is burned in my head. And coming up the highway, I think it was 95, on the right-hand side, I was on the northbound, and I looked over, and it was kind of a commercial area, and there's this pond that kind of sits in front of a commercial building, and there were 3 deer and 4 coyote. And the snow was deep, and it was just middle of the day, and the coyotes were trying to figure out how to make a play on the deer, and the deer were trying to figure out how to escape in deep snow. It was. Oh,
that must have been a sight.
It was a sight. And I was like, wow. I mean, it's still burned in my brain. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, we have a little bit of everything. We do have a predator issue. I mean, this morning, I live on a cattle farm, so there are a lot of coyotes and predators, but it had never been an issue before. But I let my dog out on the tether out back and fed him around 7 a.m. this morning, and 2 big males came hustling in, and they were squaring off with my dog. And they had let me run to my truck and retrieve a firearm and come back up to them before running away.
Right.
So it just goes to show you that it is New Jersey, but it is here. There is that that wild part of it that people don't realize. So.
Yeah, I guess I was just amazed at their boldness midday. That's what caught my attention.
You guys are like talking hunting. I'm thinking about Pauly D and T-shirt time in New Jersey.
Oh, I get that a lot. A lot of my friends from the hunting industry that come out and visit me, they're constantly asking me about the Jersey Shore and wanting to know if I see Snooki here and there, and they're always busting my chops in that respect because they know that true residents of Jersey are not fans of the show.
Right.
So that's funny. See, I don't even know who Snooki is. That's how removed I am from this stuff.
Well, you're lucky then. You're not missing much, I promise you.
I tell you what, if I know it in Ohio, Jay, I know who Pauly D and Snooki is. There's something bad wrong, man. Seriously? Really?
Yeah.
It's just the way I choose to live my life. I isolated in the hills of New Hampshire, and leave me out of that mainstream stuff. I don't need it. How long have you been at this, Greg?
I started hunting with my dad as early as 4 and 5 years old, and then legally started since I was 10, bow hunting and shotgun, and picked up the muzzleloader, and with the state of New Jersey. I started traveling pretty early on, going across the country and out of the country, but I really, cut my teeth hunting New Jersey in the farms that we, lease, manage, have permission to hunt. And I guess, since I was 10, I've been going at it pretty hard. And we have long seasons here. We start in early September and we go all the way through February. Wow. With several buck tags and pretty much unlimited doe tags. So in that respect, you get to do a lot of hunting.
My goodness, I'm in the wrong state. That's crazy. That you must have gotten an education because of that, and because of your population of deer. You must have just noticed things that you probably take for granted at this point. I'd be interested if we could lay down some of that stuff that you've picked up on. And in fact,
I'd love to.
The one thing that stuck out when I was first basically introduced to you by Facebook method, it was that there was a video that you posted where you had seen a buck that had crossed a road, and you had made the comment that it took that particular buck something like 3 hours, 4 hours to go 300 or 400 yards from a bedding area to a food site.
Yeah, that was very interesting. I filmed him actually. That buck crossed the road, and as he was crossing the road, I believe a Mercedes-Benz came up and laid on the horn, and he continued to go right across the road. So, and we'll talk about that. I'll talk about that example. Okay, so
perfect.
So let's break that down. All right, the style of hunting that I switched to in the last 2 years, I hunt buck beds. So probably my main influence is Dan Infalt. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you hunt buck beds, if you hunt pressure deer, you know who he is. He coined the term B style, and I've taken on that, and then I modified it using other techniques and different things to fit the area I hunt.
Okay.
Because I'm hunting pressure deer in a similar fashion, just in the Northeast. So, in that respect, that day I hunted near a road. Okay, I was 20 yards from the road. You got to do things that other guys are not doing to get on deer. Otherwise, you're going to have, if you're doing the same things, you're going to get the same result.
Right.
So what I did was I looked at my topo map. All right.
Yep.
And then I looked at my trail camera pictures of where I'm getting this buck. Okay. So I do on properties that I don't have agriculture or I'm unable to grow food plots or anything like that, which is pretty much most of them. All right, I use supplemental feed, and I'm not hunting this feed. All right, I'm using it to tell me where a mature whitetail is coming from when he's bedding, or at least to get an idea.
Okay.
So I started getting pictures of 2 different mature bucks on trail camera, anywhere from 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. It's fine, Big mature deer, I believe they're almost always going to be nocturnal on bait. Supplemental feeding, all that, which is okay because I don't hunt him on it. I just want to know kind of where he's coming from and how long it's taking her there.
Okay.
Can they show up in the daylight? Yeah. And if the cameras are telling you need to be in there and they're showing in the daylight, that's fine. Hunt them in the daylight, but it's so infrequent for me that I just don't even bother with it. So in that respect, I got pictures of 2 very mature bucks. One was a 4.5-year-old 8, all right, probably in the 130s, and then the other was a mainframe 10, with non-typical points, and he was probably in his 160s, a little, maybe over 170, and he had 2 drops as well, and he was showing up consistently with that buck, all right? And then eventually that 8 had broken half his rack off from fighting, but they continued to kind of run. I don't know if I wouldn't say they were not running together, but they were showing up on camera at similar times from wherever they were coming from.
Okay.
So, and they were both nocturnal. So what I did was I looked at a topo map. I said, where is he going to bed that he would feel safe with the predominant wind, that he's going to go from point A, his bed, to B, that camera, okay? Because he's taking time to get there. And what I've learned is that a buck will always get out of his bed in the daylight. He may not move very far, okay? He might only move 50 to 100 yards, sometimes more, but no matter what he is, I believe getting out of his bed in the daylight. And that's why you have to get on them in their bed. So what I saw was I found buck bed back in March, right? And I looked at my map and I said, I think he's bedding in one of 2 beds. So what I did was I took a mountain bike. I biked down the road, a main road. People drive up and down it all day, okay? Completely legal.
Right.
Drove up and down the road, parked my bike about 200 yards from where I plan on going in. All right. What I did was first I drove by it on my bike without stopping in case there was deer that could visually see me.
Yep.
I found my tree. I eyeballed the tree I wanted to hang in. All right. Because like I said, I'm going in with sticks and a lock all the time, in and out. I never found the same tree twice. All right. So what I'm doing is I lock on sticks and my bow on my back, and I'm on a mountain bike that I painted brown so that I could just lay it in the woods and just put it down there. All right.
Yep.
I went past this spot first. I picked my tree. I eyeballed it. I turned around. I came back up the hill like a normal biker, jogger, anybody that they see all day. I went just out of view. I parked my bike. I waited for a couple cars to come down the road to give me some cover noise, and I did a quick speed walk, got to a tree on the side of the road, put the tree between me and the deer, right where I thought he was bedded. All right.
Yep.
I waited for another car to come. I walked in when that car came by and made noise. I got 20 yards in, didn't need to go any further. I could see a heavy run that would cross the road. And visually, when I would drive around this area during prime time on days that I didn't have a good wind, just doing a kind of reconnaissance, I would see them crossing the spot. And I would never stop. I didn't want to scare them. I was just doing the normal thing.
Okay.
So I hung my stand. I snuck in, heel to toe. It took me about, not kidding you, 35, 45 minutes just to go this 20 yards just so I would not blow him out of his bed because I knew I was tight on his bed. I believed it to be less than 100 yards from where he was bedded, but he couldn't see me because of what we'll discuss later when you break down a buck bed. I got up in my tree, all right?
Yep.
I stood up, and I didn't move, all right? Literally half hour later, an hour before dark, down the hill, within 20 yards of my tree, comes that big mature half-rack, okay? 4.5-year-old deer and older, those are mature deer, and they don't, they don't behave like other deer, okay? They're very smart.
Yep.
They move in such a way that they seem to always have the advantage. They're very comfortable in their bedding in that respect. And when I saw him move an hour before dark, within bow range, out of his bed. He was luckily in a bed. He still couldn't see me, even though I didn't know he was in that. It told me, wow, okay, a nocturnal deer, a deer that I've only got pictures of in the dark, has now just moved an hour before light, okay?
Gotcha.
And this is where it gets interesting, all right? We'll come back to it, but that buck, that half-rack, that mature buck,
yep.
I got pictures of him. So the next day I pulled the card just because I wanted to see. I wanted to teach myself something and confirm what I believe, okay? I believe a buck, like I said, will move in the daylight well before dark, okay?
Yep.
They might not move far, but they get to their staging area. This is where they spend their time, and then until dark, and then they go to destination feed. That buck did not make it to that camera, which was only 250 yards away, until 8:30 at night.
8:30 at night.
We're talking 3 hours or so. I mean, I watched him go across the road, and he staged up right across the road for hours at a time browsing, and he would not go into that camera or feed until well into the dark. Okay, and he consistently seems to do that, and that's fine. I don't need to hunt him over the bait. I like the bait to confirm that he's in the area, and then I make plays off of the beds that I've scouted previously in the year.
Right.
But it was just incredible to me that he took that long to do it, and we're not just talking about one buck here. This is where it gets even better. This is when I really started to learn and put two things together. One buck can have a weird personality, and maybe he goes and does whatever before he gets the bait, the supplemental feed, the camera.
Yep.
Right before dark, another lesson learned. Bucks, if you're not close to the buck's bed, you're not in the game. All right, you've heard this from Dan will talk about it, but
sure. If
you're not on top of the buck's bed, you're not in the game. And in that respect, my target buck, my 160s, 170, whatever he's going to go. Hopefully, we find out legitimately soon. But he got up out of his bed. I watched him get out of his bed, only 85 yards from me. Okay, he only moved 20 yards with 5 minutes of daylight left. So that being said, we're talking about a really old, really mature deer. He's probably 5 or 6 years old, which is very mature for this area.
Sure.
Deer are very practiced and hunted hard.
Yep.
And, just on the show, this deer, on a very cold day where, good wind, everything, he had high pressure, he had every reason to get up and move earlier than he did. I watched him only move 20 yards with 5 minutes of light left. So if you're not on a buck's bed, a mature buck, 4 or 5 years old and older, you're not even in the game. You got to push the envelope. You got to get on them, or you're not going to take those deer. You hear, so many people talk about this buck, that buck. They're after that big buck, but they don't often kill them because it's we're taught stay off of their bed. You don't want to pressure them. You don't want to blow them out. But high risk, high reward. That's the strategy that I've switched to, and it's been successful. And I'm into deer. I'm into deer almost every time I hunt, and I'm getting into mature deer a lot.
Okay.
So that was that example that I know you had asked about.
Definitely,
it was
yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah, and that buck, that older buck that I just talked about,
Yep.
he also did not make it to the camera until several hours later as well. And that was the camera was only 250 yards across the road. So,
wow. All right, let's break this down a little bit more, Dusty. Let's break this down. I've
been thinking. I want to get in on this one. This is interesting.
Very.
So, just a quick question: What makes you think that buck only moves 25 yards? Why is he only moving 25 yards?
Pressure. I think it's completely hunting pressure.
Okay, gotcha.
You don't see bucks doing that.
Much pressure from you?
It could be. I mean, we're talking about a very intelligent deer here. Anytime you set foot in the woods, all right, anytime you're leaving scent, right, you're intruding, and scent stays on the ground for weeks at a time sometimes, unless you get a rain. So that's why I hang and hunt. I'm only going in areas, and I'm only hunting, those areas when I can go in and physically put that stand up, because I want to be there when he comes out and decides he hits my scent trail or he hits something, right? Oh, he's like, oh, someone's hunting me. Well, I want to be in the tree when that happens. I don't want him to come in there the next day or a day after, and then realize, okay, there's a human in here, or there's someone in here, and I am not coming back, or I'm not coming back in the daylight at least. I want that first time that he realizes I'm hunting him. I want to be there for that, and I won't go in there unless I plan on fully well hunting him. I go in there with sticks and a lock, and I hunt a new tree every time. These are trees that these deer have no idea I'm hunting them until they get right in there. If they bust me, they're within kill range at that point, because I always keep a good wind. So I don't know, just seeing these deer only moving such a short distance just confirms it. We're hunting properties where they've been hunted for years, and you can, as good as you think you are with your scent and different things, they figure things out, and they're always coming in and smelling you. Like, even if you think, okay, they're going to stay on this side of the trail, this, that, at night, when they're nocturnal, they walk anywhere they want. They don't care. Like, they'll do anything. They'll do crazy stuff in the dark. They'll walk across pavement, sidewalks, everything. Like, where you think that you're keeping a limit in and not leading scent, you're leading scent, and they're figuring it out. Like, they know. Like, the older deer know. Because, like I said, they develop a personality, and they do things that other deer aren't doing. And that's my opinion on that. Okay. Every time you go and you leave some kind of intrusion, some kind of scent that lets them know that you're there. And that's why I think that these big, old, mature deer that, they're only moving so far from their bed, and then it's pressure. And pressure doesn't mean just hunting any kind of human pressure at all.
Let's talk about this bicycle a little bit more. Right? This, because I have not. I've heard of guys, taking a bike to their stand or something like that. But this is a whole new level of bicycle hunting. I've not heard this before. So break this down for me. Tell me about the bicycle, where it came from, what it looks like, how and why a bicycle and not just drive your vehicle up to the spot and go in.
So the looks and the reactions I get when I'm going down a road, a trail, anywhere, it's a pretty populated state, from people when they see me on this bike, I just, head turn, people just look at me like, what are you doing? And other hunters are the best. They just are like, you're some kind of maniac. You some kind of nut, like the farmers, some of the places I hunt, they see me show up on a bike. It's a fat tire off-road bike. And I spray painted it flat brown so I could just leave in the woods. And, even places that I would take a pickup to, anywhere, I like taking the bike instead. I'll bike from my house 2 or 3 miles, go park my bike, cover it in leaves, and then I'm hunting from there. The bike, I took it from some really, really successful bow hunters that are actually from New Jersey. They shoot deer that you shouldn't be shooting in Jersey. And when I say that, I mean absolute giants, Boone and Crockett deer. They do stuff that no one does. Their access on the bike is great because it makes a different noise than a standard human walking. Deer are used to seeing people on bikes. When you're on a bike, you're not paying attention to deer in the respect that they see you go by quick enough that they don't think that you're paying mind to them. It has a rubber track, because it's obviously a tire, and we know that rubber is really good for not leaving scent on the ground. That's why you use rubber boots a lot for different things. And I spray my tires down, I spray the bike down, and I just go. I cut down so much time using a bike. It's great. A lot of the areas that are fields, flat land, even just a small incline, I take this bike. I don't sweat because majority of the time I'm just, it's effortless to use a bike. If you've used one, you just know how much ground you can cover with it. It's a lot more enjoyable. I don't sweat, so I'm keeping my scent down and not, creating a lot. And it's just so quiet. My bike's so quiet. In the morning hunt is the best because I park my truck very far away. I bike all the way around the roads going in, so I'm not creating light. I don't have a motor noise. I don't have any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I stop. I walk my bike into the woods. I don't go right up to the stand ever, so I don't want anyone to confuse that. I don't ever take my bike right up to the stand. I bike to probably 100 or 200 yards away from my stand, sometimes even closer, sometimes 20 yards if it fits that situation. And I'll walk my bike, and then I'll lay it on its side, and I cover it in leaves, or I'll just lay it there. It's flat ground. They don't bother. I've seen the deer walk right by my bike. That's a non-issue. But yeah, the bike has just opened up so many doors. And what's really good about it is when you're hunting an area, let's say I'm hunting this really mature buck right now. People know about it, surrounding properties, and I guess it's a good thing. They know I'm successful, and I guess but when they see me hunting a certain area consistently, they go, okay, Craig's hunting that area consistently. That monster's got to be in there. That big buck's got to be in that area. Well, they never see my truck, and they never see it where I'm hunting because I'm using a bike all the time. All right,
Gotcha.
People don't bother me. They don't. That's another. I guess that's another. It's icing on the cake with using the bike. So, but yeah, the bike. They don't pay attention to it. I know a lot of guys that I'm friendly with that are going to be upset that I just leave the bike secret. It's not a secret, but for a lot of guys it is. They would never even think to do it. So, but yeah, that bike thing has changed the game for me. I love that. It was the best $99 investment I think I've ever made. I bought a $99 bike with 28-inch or 26-inch fat tires at Walmart, and it couldn't serve a better purpose. So.
Gotcha. So if this land that you're hunting, the bike itself, it's probably not only maybe a stealth way to get into the property that you want to hunt by road, where they're probably used to seeing traffic. But there's, I would assume there are probably other bikers out there. But is the land you're hunting on public land as well?
I am on private ground. Surrounded.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got smaller tracts of private ground, but as we know, since Jersey's highly populated, these are smaller tracts. I have a lot of surrounding hunting pressure. I'm competing with a lot of other guys. So although it is private that I'm hunting, we get so much surrounding hunting pressure. Guys are getting dropped off. People are sneaking in. The deer are getting, they're really getting pressured. It's very easy to nudge a buck off your property onto someone else's and so forth. And, with baiting being legal, guys surrounding properties are just dumping, X amount of bait, pulling deer every which way. They're creating so many options for these deer that, again, back to baiting, guys that bait, these deer have so many options so that, if things aren't exactly perfect at one bait site, they can go to another, and it causes these deer to just be all over the place and make them even tougher to hunt. So, Gotcha. In that respect,
okay.
We are hunting private, but these deer are they're pressured, they've been hunted, and they know the game. So,
all right. So you've also got this strategy, and I've heard this before from other hunters that are successful, is that you won't hunt the same tree. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yes. Many successful hunters I know, and just with the style that I choose to use, the first time in the stand is the best time. You hear about the hunter, the new hunter, the hunter, doesn't care. He just goes in there for the first time. He hunts a tree just because it looks cool and he likes it. He doesn't think about the wind. He doesn't think about all these things that, hunters with some years under their belt would think about. And he's successful. He's hunting an area just, based off nothing other than, I'm going to hunt here and I like this tree. And he's successful. And, that plays into, like I said, being in the tree the first time. I like to use this example, I guess, because being in law enforcement, let's say somebody burglarized your house. You go in there, you see things are a mess. All right, you're calling the cops, you're getting out of there. You don't want to be there. You're freaked out because things are disarray. You notice those right away, and you're out of there. You're fleeing. Okay. Well, when a buck comes into his bedroom, all right, and he sees things are a mess, right? This is an example of a guy leaving, not hunting at the same time he goes in. He sets a camera, bait, makes all kinds of intrusion, scent. That buck comes in there. Yeah, maybe he'll feed for a little bit in the daylight, hanging out, but he's gone. He's never coming back in the daylight again. He'll come back in the night. He knows you're not there, and he starts playing games with you. Well, if you're in there that first time when he comes in there in his bedroom, all right, and you're set up in a tree, all right, it's too late for him. Once he's figured out you're there, he's dead. If you're setting up right, you're going in the first time. You have your buck beds figured out. All right, he's dead the first time you're in there in that tree, if he's bedded there, and that's the thing for me. I do not want a buck to figure out I'm there, okay, unless I'm in that tree. If he figures me out, he figures me out. But I should have a shot at him if I had done my homework. I'll have a shot at him when he figures out I'm there, because I'm in there for the first time. I love it. Deer are so much calmer too. Man, they're not looking up in the tree. They are just cool as cucumbers, man. Just the natural movement. It's so much more enjoyable too. When you're in the tree for the first time, you're getting different views. You're hunting different areas, and so that's why I say the first time in choosing a different tree every time is just great, and it's just been so successful for us. And, you're hunting different areas. You're not. When you hunt a property after several years and you have predispositions of where deer should be and where they're not going to be, and from years past what they did, and that can really ruin you, and you need to hunt the overlooked areas. You need to hunt the areas that you're not putting pressure on. It's like a leaky bag. You put pressure on one side, it's going to go every which way. And you need to be hunting spots that you do not think that deer are hanging out because they're not getting pressure there. And, those spots will surprise you. I got deer bedding in ridiculous areas. When they have opportunities to bed in some great big tracts of land, they're not. They're choosing to bed the overlooked areas. That's a huge thing, is hunting overlooked areas you wouldn't expect a deer to be. Yep. Hang in there, get in there. You got it, break, start crossing off pieces of, cut it up, cut it into grit and start hunting a little piece here and there. If you don't know where buck beds are, you got to do that. Figure out your property. At the very least, you'll be hunting a new spot or a new area of your property every day. I think we talked earlier before the call. I saw something, very intriguing today. I use the rain. Anytime that we get a heavy rain, I use those as free days to check my cameras, maybe just do a little reconnaissance, because your scent's being washed away. I think a rain day is a free day to check my cameras and do whatever I need to do. All right. I parked today around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. I was right next to the house on the property. At least there's a rental house. Okay. Little strip of woods, maybe 20 yards wide, no bigger than that, behind the house, and then a major parking lot from a business. I parked right in their driveway. I could see in that little strip while construction workers are going on. I even watched the guy go into the woods and go to the bathroom 10 yards from where a big mature 8-pointer was bedded. He was bedded right there, okay? And he did not make a fuss about it. He saw my truck, because I was 10, 15 yards from him. He was in this little strip. And he had bedded there the whole time right next to active construction, a rental house where people are actively going in and out, taking the garbage out. Yep. All right. He got up out of his bed. We made a little eye contact. He didn't think I saw him. He just slipped out slowly, quietly, walked out the back door. He had a good exit. I could see from my truck where he was bedded. He had his ideal setup there. And I think that, that's going into my next thing about how important visual is. We harp on scent, the wind with the buck and having the wind, advantage and everything. But man, with the things I've learned about visual, just crazy. That buck had hundreds of acres of big tracts of woods and thick, nasty cover that we always talk and think about. Right. And he chose the bed right there next to construction and a house. And that's where I'm going to go into the visual. So I want to talk about how important visual is to a buck. Okay. All right. We harp on scent, like with a buck, with having the wind advantage and different things. That is really important. But from what I've been seeing, mature pressure bucks, just like I said, we're talking about pressure deer here. They count so much on what they can see. So in the off season, March, around those times, this is when I find the buck bed. You go and you physically get in the buck bed and you look out and you see what can this buck see when he's bedded in here. And you decide, if it's hilly country, he's going to be on the leeward side of the hill when the wind's blowing off the top and the thermals are rising and it has that wind tunnel effect. If you find a buck bed, a good buck bed, it's going to have a barrier at its back. Like it could be a fallen log, a thick bush, and sometimes it'll be canopied, but there'll be a thick, barrier at its back, okay? And then it's going to be open in front of them. And what I find is these bucks they go to bed with the wind in their face. Yep. Right? They bed, and then they put the wind at their back. So they sit in the bed with the object at their back, and that's when the wind is blowing at their back, yep. And then they're looking to the open. Okay, they keep the wind at their back, and then they have the visual in their face. So now they have both advantages. They have visual, and they have scent. They can turn their head and smell anything at their back, right? Yep. And then, obviously, because there's a barrier there, the thick stuff, they're going to hear you coming through that. They can, it's like a bull in the china shop when you try and go through a briar patch or leaves or anything to try and approach them. Right. But they're going to smell you before that point ever happens. And then with the visual, they like to see everything in front of them. All right. And then I've seen them, they get up and a lot of times they exit wind at back, okay, which everyone's like, oh, they're going to keep the wind in their face when they go. No. I've been seeing so much, these bucks, they like to have open on one side of their bed, okay, with a barrier at their back. That's what everything seems to have in common. All my big bucks, it's open to some extent, all right, open timber, field, something. It's open in the front, okay. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, hunt the thick stuff, getting the real thick stuff. Yeah, thick is good, but, I mean, think about this. If you're a big buck, you don't want to have thick briars 360 degrees around you, 5 feet, in front of your face. You can't see anything. You can't, it's not safe.
Right.
It's, your goose is cooked if they get on top of you, and that's what I'm finding. These pressure deer, they love to have some kind of open area in front of them where they can see. So what we do is when we find our buck bed in, I guess say March, around St. Patrick's Day, at the same time we're shed hunting, we kneel and we look, okay, where would he get up on this predominant wind and walk to, all right? And we look at that trail, all right? I see, where does this trail end where you can't see it anymore? And like I said, Dan talked about it before, but you can't see anymore, right? You go 10, 15, 20 yards from that point, and that's where you're going to hang your tree. What I like to do is, things change, foliage changes, I GPS mark on my Onyx hunt map in my phone at that point, and then I go and I walk down and I find my tree. Okay, and I hash it with my knife, like overhead high, so, I can just see it when I'm walking through the woods, because it's going to get green. Things are going to look way different. We all know how different things look at certain times of the year. But if you hash the side of the tree with the knife, or you put a piece of tape, there's something that's going to let you know that tree to be hanging in, so that when I do the B style and I go heel to toe and I take an hour to get in there, I see my tree. I know that's home base. And then when I'm getting to that tree, I'm kneeling and I'm being as quiet as I absolutely possibly can when I'm setting up my sticks and my lock, because I know that if I go 10 more yards, he's looking right at me. All right, given that he's bedding there. All right, so then I'm hanging there, and because I'm so close and I'm on top of his bed, I expect him to move in the daylight on that trail, and then he's killable.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah, that's why visual is so important. If you know where that buck bed is, you can be in the game, because now you're not going to park, bike, walk, go down a driveway, trail, all this stuff that you're probably already doing, because you know where his buck bed is. It's amazing to me when I'm sitting in their buck bed and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, for years I've walked that trail, driven this road, this and that. He's seen me the whole time. That's why he's unkillable. So it's important.
Gotcha. All right, let's back that up and go into that March, finding the buck bed in the first place. How do you go about finding those buck beds in March?
Okay, so what I do is I do a general shed hunt, and we're walking in areas that we believe there should be buck bedding, okay? First off, if it's a property I'm not really familiar with, I don't know it very well, I'm helping another guy find buck beds, which we do a lot. I look at my map, and I look for transition areas. I look in an area where certain cover meets a change in type of cover. It could be really thick foliage to very open area, and I walk those transition lines, right? You walk that transition line until you find heavy runs, all right, or some kind of sign that's telling me, okay, there's a mature buck living in here, okay, sometimes it's going to be rubs. When I look at rubs, I look at chest-high rubs, okay, the age and pine length of a buck is indicative of how high that rub is from what we've seen,
right.
All right, and so when we're in these areas, I start looking, because I know what a buck bed needs to have to be a successful buck bed for a mature buck. I start looking at things, okay, wait, and they'll pop at you once you know what you're looking for. I like to look for things that, a canopy, so he's protected. And this is like on more flatter ground, thicker area. This isn't the hillside, but I look for a canopied area. I look for a fallen log, somewhere he can put his back to.
Yeah.
And I look where it's really thick and he has open in front of him. And I'm finding buck beds in those areas. They're going to be, drier areas, a little elevated sometimes. They're going to be an area that a buck feels very safe in. Okay, he can see for a ways. So, like, I'm seeing these buck beds from like 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards out, because I'm seeing the dirt where they, from use over time.
Okay.
And there's hair in them. Sometimes there's going to be a rub right in that bed. I've been seeing that. Like they'll get up, they'll rub in their bed, and I've been seeing when I get on top of these bucks, sometimes I'm able to see them in their bed. They get up several different times during the day, and they'll walk around a little bit. They'll go to the bathroom. They'll rub the tree. They'll hit a licking branch, like all within that little few feet, and then they'll sit back down. Like they like to keep continuously trying to get more comfortable. I think nothing more than that. That's what I feel about it. Why they're getting up out of that bed.
Okay.
That's what I see. That's what I'm looking for. A buck bed is going to have, because they're bedding by themselves, they need so much for it to be an advantage. A doe bed's different. If you ever go to like a flat area of ground and you see several different beds facing different ways, those are does. They don't need a barrier. They don't need different things because they bed in such a way that they can each see different ways. That's doe bedding. It's different from buck bedding. Will a doe use a buck's bed? Yeah, when she's by herself or maybe one other doe I'm finding. But you're not going to see, they don't bed the same way because of that. Does use group protection, different views, different looks. Bucks don't have that because, we know bucks, for the most part, are loners and they have personalities where they just don't like to be close to a lot of their bucks. So that's why they need to have a bed that consists of things that's going to allow them to have different advantages while being alone.
Gotcha. Okay. So you identify these beds in March, and let's walk through how you decide where you're going to place your stand again. You said that once you identify the bed, where do you go from there?
Okay, so I found a bed that I think is a mature buck bed. It's got everything I think it needs to have. All right, I look and I see, okay, what's my predominant wind? All right, in the fall when I'm going to be hunting. Early season we get a lot of south, southwest, a lot of southerly winds. And then as the year progresses, we get a lot of west, a lot of northwest. That's what we've been seeing, a ton of west, northwest. And so I say, where, and we take notes. Always when you're finding these buck beds, map them in your Onyx maps, your Hunt app, or your GPS, and save them. But then make notes in your book, okay? Because you're going to find so many good beds. There's a lot of beds that you're going to want to make plays on. That you're going to need to take notes, and you're going to know how to hunt that bed because March is a lot further away from September, October, November. You're going to forget. We're human. We replace things in our mind, and you're going to need to refer back to these notes. So in that respect, I find the bed. I find the trail that I believe he's going to walk when he exits his bed. That's why March is great because things haven't grown yet. It's a little warmer, but it's not. They have not grown yet. There's no greens. You can see these trails paved into the ground. Things are very visible at this time, especially if you have snow on the ground. So if you have snow, it helps so much. You can see the trail coming out of that bed,
right. And
now okay, this is the trail he uses when he leaves his bed. You look down. I find the area that I can't see any further. Right when I'm kneeled in this bed, I look. And I'm not worrying about scent right now because it's March, and they're going to get over it. They'll get over it by the time the season comes around. Right. They're not going to stop using a bed because they smell me in March. So I look down the hill, see where I can't see anymore. All right.
Yep.
I walk to that point, and then I try and find a good tree 10, 15 yards from that point. All right. And then I look at, okay, how am I going to make my way to this tree? Come time to hunt it. So like I said before, I find that good tree, and I'll take like a piece of twine or I don't compete with a lot of other guys. Luckily, it's not public land at this spot, so I'm not too concerned about a guy, average day Joe, finding my tree and hanging and hunting it.
Yep.
Just because he sees that, he thinks, oh, somebody else thinks it's good, I'm going to hunt it. So I don't have to worry about that. So I'll either like hash the tree or put a bright eye in that tree. Just something that's going to let me know when I'm trying to make my play on it.
Yep.
That play on that bed. That's where I'm going to finish out, and that's how I need to, that's the tree I need to get to. So in that respect, I fully expect that buck, if he's bedded there, to get up in the daylight and come down and try and stage there, because these are essentially staging areas where you're hanging your stand. Because if a buck's moving in the daylight, he's a pressured buck, it's going to be a staging area he's trying to make it to before the final destination for the night, which is pretty much nocturnal from what I've seen.
Gotcha. And you said that you're getting about 15 to 20 yards away from the bed, or is it further than that?
No. 15 to 20 yards away from the last point you can see. So if he's sitting up on the side of that, the last point you can see. So if he's in his bed and he can look and he can see 70 yards down the trail, I'm hanging probably 90 yards because I am down the trail and off like 20 yards of the ride or 10 yards off.
Okay.
I want to be, exactly. So that, I just want to clear that up. I'm not that tight on his bed. I'm trying to get within 100 yards of his bed. It's kind of like the average. I don't like to get too much closer than that because you really risk bumping him at that point. And you got to be wary of where the doe beds are too, because there's sometimes bedding and, stuff that is a lot more open, and they can ruin you. If you don't know where they are, you're going to blow them out.
Gotcha.
So that's why it's so,
So you're kind of you're going to the bed. You're taking a visual. You're pretending that you're that buck. You're seeing what this buck can see. The eyesight on a whitetail is probably pretty equivalent to a human.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
you're giving it equal ground. You're seeing how far they can see, and then you're going 15 to 20 beyond where the last point that you think that they can see, and that's where you're going to set.
Yeah, bow range, because I think he's going to walk that trail, and then I like to have a 20-yard shot, like 15, 20-yard
Gotcha.
shot in there, and give myself a little bit of a leeway in case he walks on the edge of it or outside it.
Gotcha. All right. Very, very interesting strategy. Now you're using it doesn't sound like you're a ladder stand guy for the most part. It sounds like
I will. Yeah. I'll share with you my exact setup. Yeah. So what I use a set of climbing sticks that uses a rope locking system, no buckle, no sound. It's awesome. All right. So I use 4 to 5 climbing sticks. All right. And then my lock-on is also extremely silent because I've modified all my gear, and we'll talk about that in a second. Because being silent is so key with all this. I don't make any dings, noises, nothing. I don't. I have to eliminate all these mistakes when hunting a mature buck. So I soundproofed everything. I sprayed everything down with bed liner. All right. So you're knocking metal with your hand, and it's just stud. It's like really quiet, like you would on a bed. It's like almost making it like a hardened plastic, but it's not metal anymore. It lasts years longer because it's rust proof. And then I teamed up with a company that I believe in just because it works. It's got this stuff called Buck Bumper by Sound Barrier.
Yep.
Got a bunch of rolls of that, real cheap. I wrapped all my stuff in it. Man, everything is so quiet. It's great. So sound is so key. And it's a very close second for me, in my opinion, to the visual part. And even the lock-on that I had that they unfortunately stopped making, had a rope locking mechanism just like the sticks because it's the same company. I don't need to mention it, but if you see my pictures, you'll see what kind of lock-on I'm using it.
Yep.
And it's all ropes, not one ratchet strap, not one lock. I can't afford that. When you're 100 yards from the bed, you know how loud it is when you're trying to hook on a tree arm or a tree stand or anything. It's like, it's so loud. So when I only use these ropes, I'm able to achieve such such great things with how close I'm able to get to your and speed. I'm up the tree so quick. I'm up as fast as guys with climbers when I have 5 climbing sticks and a lock on. And then I have my bow rope on my hip, and I'm up the tree one shot, and I can pull my bow right up and I sit. I am putting the tree between me and the deer where I think they are, right? And where I believe they are bedded because I've seen the bed. I take pictures of the bed with my phone too, just remind myself what it looks like, where I think they are. I just like to take pictures of these beds in March when I'm there, just so I, confirm what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And I'll have to share those with you. There's some pretty cool photos. But so I get the tree between me and them. I kneel down at the base. I lay out all my sticks and my lock on, so everything's silent. I separate everything so it can't clang on itself.
Okay.
Even though if it did, it'd be fine because I've already silenced everything. I lay everything out. I go one stick at a time. I put the tree between my body and them. And then when I get to the very top, I have my lock on my back with backpack straps. And I peek around the tree. I make sure that nothing's got eyeballs on me or nothing. And I swing the lock on around silently. I cinch it up. All right. I cam lock it with my arms as best I can. And then I slowly climb up and around the tree. I strap on my harness, and then I pull my bow rope up, and I'm keeping my bow on my lap with an arrow nock the whole time. And that's it. I'm just rock and roll, ready to go. And
that's it.
When you hunt like this, it's so intense, and it makes it so much more enjoyable. It's like the adrenaline rush because you're just pushing the envelope so much. It's like some James Bond stuff. You're like sneaking in there so stealth on something that should be able to beat you every time. It's a wild animal. Has everything, all the advantages. A mature buck. So it's an intense style hunting that I've gone to, and I really like it. The rope style though is the reason why I think I'm so successful at hanging without making all that noise.
Gotcha. And do you prefer to do it that way over a climbing stand, for example?
Yes. I am not limited to a tree where I have to have a climber. I can hang any tree I want, and I could start doing sticks up one way, and then I could face another way. And I've been able to hunt some of the weirdest angled trees because I'm using climbing sticks and still be silent. I'm sure guys have it down to a science, but I just growing up made so much noise trying to get my climber, around and have it fixed the right way, the right amount of attention, at the angle. I don't know. I've had been so much more successful and felt so much better about it hunting with sticks and a lock rather than a climber. You're very limited when you have a climber.
Gotcha. All right, I've heard that before too, where you're actually limited by the tree that you're going to climb. So that's the reason for the hang on over the climber.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yep.
So you're focused on being very quiet. Sounds like that's one of your main.
It's almost very anal, and it's actually ruined things for me because I'm so anal about being quiet going in that I just get angry at myself. Any little noise, I'm just like, I feel like I've blown it sometimes when really, I could probably get away with a lot more than I actually am allowing, myself to do. But.
Gotcha. And what about scent control? Does that factor in?
I don't get too crazy with it. I keep a good wind. So what I do is I wear rubber boots, and a lot of times I wear rubber gloves. But the key is just don't touch anything. We as humans, specifically men, I learned this from a really good hunter. Actually, they were twins. They're from Arkansas, the Hinton brothers, and they're awesome hunters. Man, they've hunted everywhere. They've killed a ton of stuff. They're very unknown, but man, I've taken so many good pages out of their book. They taught me that, we as men, we emit oils in our hands, and anytime we touch stuff in the woods and we're walking around, we leave, a footprint, a scent footprint, I think, like for the deer to know that we're there. So that's why I never handle anything barehandedly. I wear gloves and rubber boots, and I'm spraying down my hands and I'm spraying down my feet with scent killer, just a standard scent killer, nothing special. All right. I'll wash my clothes in, scent-free, detergent. But really, the biggest thing is just, baking soda. I'll throw a bunch of baking soda in there. That's a key. But I'm not going too crazy.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm keeping a good wind. I'm spraying my rubber boots down, and I'm trying not to touch things. I don't like to touch prickers or thorns or anything like that. I mean, I'll go as far as to take a set of hand clippers, like gardening hand clippers, like little ones, and I will literally trim as I go, so I'm not touching anything, and the only thing touching anything is the blade, and that allows me to be silent. I'm not getting caught on stuff, and I take a serious time getting in it. I mean, I'll take an hour plus sometimes just to go 100 to 200 yards. I'm just going heel to toe, and that's another big point.
Okay.
Sound. All right. Sounds occur all day in the woods. We learn that, like squirrels, deer, raccoons, all that stuff. If you can eliminate consistency with your sound and not sound like a human walking through the woods that's rushing to get to the tree because he took too long to get in the woods or didn't prepare appropriately, you can eliminate consistency in what the sound you're making. You can beat a deer. Okay. They can't see it. All right. They try and confirm it with their ears. And they're like, what am I hearing? All right. What's that noise? Crunch, 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 crunch. It's louder. It's getting louder. It's not taking a break. It's not stopping to feed. It's not stopping to scent, check a tree. All that stuff. That's human. Boom, they're gone. They don't even need to see it. They're out of there. If you can move so slowly, methodically, inconsistently, where they can't see it, they almost they get bored with it. They believe it to be a squirrel. They forget about it. They're not worried about it. It's moving so slow. It has no predator instinct to be coming after them. They're not worried about it. All right.
Okay.
So that's why keeping visual, I feel, is for a mature buck in his bed. If you can keep them from having a visual on you, it's more important just barely than scent, because I use that visual to confirm what they're seeing. They don't need it. They don't need to smell it or anything. If they see a hunter walking in the woods, they're gone. We know that. You see them, they bolt out when you unfortunately you bump them going in. They didn't smell you. They didn't hear you yet, but they sure seen you. And so that's why, like I said, you can get away with the noise, but you don't want it to be consistent. You don't want it to sound like a human. Eliminate the dings, all that stuff. I try and, when I get new gear, like my sticks, my lock-on, any equipment, I get fully dressed up. I do everything I would normally do on a hunt. I jump up and down. I make as much noise as I can. I want to see, what do I need to eliminate? Man, I've added so much stuff and doing soundproof and all kinds of crazy stuff that, now I'm to the point where I'm not making any noise when I get to that tree and I'm up in the tree.
Gotcha. All right. Very, very good. What else have you picked up on for whitetail behavior that really sticks out in your head that you pay attention to?
I'm trying to think of what's a good lesson here. I got a ton of stuff down here. Bucks. I'm not sure if we talked about it before, but finding bucks are walking with the wind at their back when they're going to field, and it's just like goes back to, we're so much taught that a buck's going to walk with the wind in his face. From what I've seen, they only walk and keep the wind in their face at during certain times and events. Okay, one, they walk with the wind in their face when they're scent checking. All right, bedding areas for does. So the rut, they use the wind in their face during the rut is what I see a lot. All right, when they're on feed, like in a feed field or on feed, they keep the wind in their face while they're feeding. I find that a lot.
Okay.
All right. And then a third, they keep the wind in their face when they're going to bed in the morning, like in the dark, like, or very early hours. That's when they keep the wind in their face. But, that's why I hate hunting over bait. I don't like to do it. I don't do it. I think that because they are going to enter with the wind in their face, that I lose the advantage. A bucket,
Gotcha.
a mature buck is so comfortable in his bed that he is literally willing to walk out of it with the wind at his back. Right. So if you can keep the wind advantage, you as the hunter keep the wind advantage when he comes out of his bed, just barely. He thinks that he's the man. He's got all the advantages. His bed just made him survive yet again, and you can kill him. I want complete element of surprise on these deer. These mature pressured bucks they've had so much of an education from seeing other deer die, being hunted, having close calls that you need to surprise them. Otherwise, they'll just be so freaked out.
Gotcha.
You need to have room for little air. You can't have any airs, but you need to create as much room for your having an air as possible. And when you hunt over bait, you hunt over areas that they know through time and just experience are being hunted hard. Man, you create such a difficult deer to hunt. So that's why I feel that way.
Gotcha. What's your philosophy on hunting? Like, what does it mean to you?
Oh, yeah. At this point, I feel like it's my life, and I don't know who I'd be without it. It made me who I am as a man in so many ways because I had a great father growing up who got me into hunting very early on. It's why we are so close. We're so bonded. He passed away about 2 years ago, unfortunately, but the memories and the friendship. He was my best friend, and I was just blessed to have a dad that got me into hunting, and I took it and absolutely ran with it. I have so many of my best friends and just people that I call and talk to on the regular are just from hunting. And if I didn't hunt, I don't really know who I'd be. I'm a firm believer that if you get a kid involved in hunting, they stay out of trouble. They're not, kids who hunt, they're not out there doing drugs and stealing things. They're, instead of going out and partying, like I think growing up so many times, and I had a lot of friends, but so many times people were like, oh, I can't wait to party, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, it's rut. I'm going to be sleeping tonight because I'm getting up at 4 a.m. to go kill a deer. And, that eliminated a lot of probably, opportunities where I could have gotten myself in trouble or gotten into, bad things. And because I was hunting was important to me. Those are values that I still carry with me today. You're immediately bonded. That's what I love about hunting. You can go anywhere with someone hunt. It could be a total stranger, right? You go out anywhere, anything, do anything. You meet a total stranger. When you both hunt, it's almost, there's a bond there. You share a common bond and you have an instant, connection with that person where you just start talking hunting. It doesn't matter what walk of life you are, but if you hunt, you have that and you can just start a conversation. You almost trust people more because you know what that takes. You know how special that is. So that's why hunting is so important to me. I don't know. It's maybe who I am. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know who I'd be without it. It's so special to me. And, I don't know, my friends and my really tight bonds, I feel, are just even so much more strength from hunting.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, Craig, I was wondering if you could take us on a deer hunt with you. Go on one of your most memorable deer hunts. Break it down piece by piece with a lot of details so we can feel like we're there with you. And I was wondering if we could do that for us. Where are we going to go? New Jersey, I would assume.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? And let's do New Jersey, and I'm going to do the most recent harvest I had. Okay.
All right.
Because it's still very fresh, but it was so noteworthy of like the events that happened, and I was hunting this beast style, so it's really good because it's going to be a learning story as we go, and it was such a cool hunt. Oh, it was awesome. I'm going to get pretty animated when I talk about it because it's still very fresh in my mind. All right. So December 1st, all right, we're on the bow hunt. We're doing, 6 and a lock on.
Yep.
All right. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, start by 5. All right. Like I said, you have 2 hours to hunt, which I did that day. An hour of it's going to be spent getting in silently and setting up, and then the other hour is going to be hunting. That was my plan. All right. I'd never hunted this part of the property yet. All right. For the year. I looked at my Onyx map. I looked at what my wind was. I took milkweed out. Another big thing. Check your wind with milkweed. It'll tell you what it's doing for hundreds of yards at the time. Okay. Threw my milkweed up, told me what the wind was doing, and I walked.
started going through. I used an overgrown Christmas tree field, and I'm talking overgrown, so thick that I'm using canopies just to go underneath the whole thing and be silent. The big block Christmas tree, and then a surround, on that, the top and the right of it, like it's like an L of woods, is the thick bedding and nasty stuff where I know bucks are bedded and living and pinch points. And so I went with my lock-on and sticks up into there in an area, right? I found what I felt the wind was going to be doing, I hung my sticks and a lock-on, all right? About 150 yards out, I saw a bunch of bucks just full-on running, okay? They were chasing a hot doe. You could just see it. They were just dogging her. They were all going crazy, grunting, all that stuff. And I was like, okay, we have a doe in heat, December 1st, second rut. We have a second cycle coming. I sat there, took my milkweed out, threw it up in the air again. And this is like 3:15, 3:30, mind you. It's, we're getting towards that time where you want to be set up. And you want to be anticipating a good hunt. Well, I took my milkweed out. Unfortunately, that milkweed is blowing right at where all those deer were and where I thought they were going to come from. It would have blown my hunt. Did I want to get down? No. Oh my gosh, I just set up. And I just told you the process that I go through. It's not easy. It's not a lazy man's game. But I said, don't be a hypocrite. Practice what you preach. If the wind's wrong, get down and get right. I literally got down from the tree, combining speed with, being quiet. I got down from the tree, strapped my sticks back up, my lock on. I was like, I got to figure out a new plan, So I looked at my Onyx map again, all right? And now I knew what the wind was doing when I was going to be out, be in the woods now. So I started walking back to the Christmas tree field, using it because I was completely silent because the warm grasses underneath the Christmas tree fields were silent. So I'm walking to the Christmas tree field, using it, just complete cover the whole way. I get to the other edge, the other side of the field where the woods are, super thick. And I come out and I look, and there's a huge pinch point, all right? It's not huge. It's very narrow. It's about 40 yards wide. But what makes it special is that there's a house with a fence that borders right up to it, all right? I can't hunt that property, but they know I'm hunting there. We have a good relationship. And it forces the deer between their fence. It's not a high fence. It's it's a horse fence, a horse paddock. And then the other corner is the Christmas tree field, and then they don't like to walk through it. At least I thought. So I'm down at this pinch. I get up in the tree. Now it's 3:45. I'm pushing the envelope here. Deer are going to start moving real quick. I get up in the tree. I'm only 10 feet off the ground. I go 3 sticks high because at this point I couldn't go any higher. The tree was weird. I was just, I had good backdrop at being only 10 feet high. I had all these Christmas trees in my back. I didn't want to be skylit. So I'm like, you know what? I'll put the tree directly in my back, just like I usually hang, and I'll use that. So I'm like, at 3:45, we're cutting close here. I thought, I'm hunting a pinch at this point. I'm not hunting a buck bed, right? Because, it's rut behavior, and that's why I allowed myself to hunt the pinch. When you're hunting rut, you're seeing their behavior, getting your pinches, get between, two different bedding areas, and they'll travel through it. So I get up in this tree. I'm like 10 feet off the ground. I got my bow there. I'm not really feeling too great about it. I'm not gonna lie. I look up. I see a paved road, maybe 150 yards out, in view. Some open timber. There's 8 kids that live in this house. Kids go out, start bouncing a basketball. Another kid gets on a skateboard. They start throwing the ball around. I mean, they're like 100 yards from me. I could see them in the driveway, and it's safe. It's completely safe. I'm up in a tree and I'm away from them, but I can see them, And I'm like, no deer is going to come anywhere near this. This goes back to overlooked areas that you just wouldn't expect deer to be. And for that reason, we never really hunt this area. But I was like, let me try it, On paper, this is where I should hunt. It's like you tell myself, hunt the overlooked areas, hunt the pinches. Just forget the rest. Forget your predisposition. So, right, I'm up in here by 3:45, 3:50, 4:15. I look in front of me, see 3 mature does run across the paved road. Right, they came out of a golf course. I guess there was like a marsh area down the golf course. They came right off. They came right in the wood block where I'm in. So they're like 90 yards out right now, right? Milling around.
Yep.
Standing there. They're walking. All of a sudden, boom. Lead doe stops, puts on the brakes, looks directly back down the trail. He just walked on. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something coming, And I was like, it was December 1st, and I'd seen a hot doe in the area. So I'm like, maybe I'll get lucky. Boom. Big mature 8-pointer comes running right across the road, about 4.5-year-old. I just saw a picture that I posted back in December 1st, and I shot him. Came across the road, right on the doe's trail. All right. He had been bedded. I came to find out he bedded in such a way that he was able to see the does and they would hit this trail. It's called a satellite bed. He sits in a certain bed during the rut, and he's able to watch a trail. And when a doe hits that trail, he knows it's time to get up and check her. So he followed him across the road, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, man, they're walking away from me. Probably like 80 yards out. I'm out of the game at this point, and they start walking towards that house. I'm like, they must not know there's kids playing outside right now. They get to that point on the field edge right by their house.
and they look and they hear the basketball being bounced. Man, it couldn't have been a better timing. The deer literally turned on a dime and they started walking right at my tree. And I'm like, I wonder what's making them walk right here. Well, I didn't know it, but I set up 5 yards from a major run. It was just out of my view until at that point. I'm like looking down. I'm like, oh no, that's way too tight for me. I do not want to be 5 yards from a trail. I got nothing in between me. I mean, it's not very thick. And I'm only 10 feet off the ground. So you're talking in their face. You know what I'm saying? So these does walking, they're coming right at me, 10 yards, 9 yards, 8 yards. They're 3 yards from me, and they walk 3 or 4 yards right on the trail, past my tree. Then the big buck comes, and he walks. He gets 7 yards from me, and he stares right up at me in the face, right? Luckily, I had the tree in my back. I had a good wind the way I hung, and I hid behind my bow. I was at full draw, and I literally twisted my legs all the way around, right?
Yep.
So that if he had gone to the right of my tree at point blank, I could spin and shoot him, and I'd still be good. But if he went to the left of me and split, I didn't know how he was going to go. But if he'd gone to the left of me, I'd still be able to wrap and shoot that way too. We had one little, I guess it was probably 8 inches in diameter, tree, small tree, between us. And the trail was on the other side of it. And I was like, if he walks in front of it, he's in my face, I'll never be able to shoot. He'll blow out of there like a bull at a PBR event. If he goes around it, I have an opportunity. I got a chance. I don't have a good chance because it's so small and it's not going to be a lot of time, but I have a chance. He looks up at me, looks at the doe, looks up at me, puts his head down, starts walking right after the doe, goes around the tree. I'm like, here's my time. I couldn't have drew back the bow any quicker. 4 yards, right? Never turns and looks at me. I had it like an arm. I'm like, oh, he didn't see me draw. I can't believe it. He's point blank. Literally, I could have jumped out of the tree and probably landed on him. And I drew back and snapshot, and I drilled him through both shoulders. And he actually expired probably 50 yards from me, right next to the horse paddock fence while the kids are down to the basketball. I mean, they couldn't see it because it's so thick where we are, but
right.
Just goes to show. Overlooked area. Kids down to the basketball. He's got this whole property to run, and all these does do too. But they choose to go in an area where people are not hunting them. They feel comfortable. They can see it, the visual. They can see what the threats are,
right.
And no one's hunting there because we haven't hunted in the past there. Guys I share the leads with because we think it's too close to the house. They're never going to walk here. And it was just an awesome hunt because it was because I was not lazy. I did the right things. I got right with the wind. Okay, people get right with God. I got right with the wind. I got trapped in the tree. I rehung. I did the right things. And I made the most of the half hour, 45 minutes I had left. That's such an important thing to think about here. I think, I can't get out until the last hour. Last hour is really when you're going to take a mature buck. You look at that historically. When
right.
you take your deer, you took them right almost close to the door.
Right.
So, that was such a memorable hunt for me. I worked so hard. I passed so many bucks. I passed, in New Jersey, to be passing 8 or 9 bucks over 120 inches is unheard of for most guys. I was hunting this 160, 170, and this buck came from across the road, a property I wasn't very familiar with, and I never had pictures of him. So I said, you know what, this is a bonus. Treat yourself. And I chose to harvest him right there, and I couldn't have been happier. And I still have more tags to go, and I'm still hunting the big boy. Well, I still can. I've meat in the freezer, and I have a great 8-pointer on the ground. And there was no more adrenaline than shooting him at 4 yards, 10 feet off the ground. We were like, it was point blank. I could have reached him with a full stick. I felt like, So,
yeah, yep.
It was a great, cool hunt. It was running guns. Techniques that I used to be successful, and it was just so cool for me to think about that. I literally took all my stuff down and rehung the right way, and I guess I was rewarded for it. I've never been in that tree. A deer's never seen a person in that tree, which is probably why I got away with what I did at point blank on that buck.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, that adrenaline it rushes through you when you're that close and you make it happen. It's insane, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
On the ground.
It was very cool. I went live actually from the tree with everybody on that one. It was pretty intense. I was trying to share with everybody, everyone that supports me and my loved ones and people that make it possible. So it was very cool. It was a good day. It was a good day to be a bow hunter.
Gotcha. Oh, very cool. Congratulations. Very nice. All right, I'm going to turn the mic over to Dusty. He's going to finish up with the 10 rapid-fire questions. We haven't prepped you for these, but they're better that way. So go ahead, Dusty.
Craig, what's your best hunting tip?
My best hunting tip. Always keep the wind favor. Live and die by the wind. It's something I live by, and the best, biggest buck hunters I know that are successful year in, year out. They're not on TV. They're not, all over magazines. They're the unknown. They're guys that they're saying the same thing. Live and die by the wind. Play the wind. do the best to keep, the advantage. Don't let them smell you. So use the wind. That's number one. That's my opinion.
Gotcha. Great tip. We all have that one thing that we can't hunt without. What's yours?
Lately, it's been my milkweed. I don't know what my wind's doing. I'm not even in the game. I mean, you can look at weather sites and different apps and different things. They're going to tell you what the wind is doing. But when you're physically in that tree, all right, depending on how high you are, wherever you're at, if you're in your blind, whatever path of hunting you decide to use, if you don't know what your wind's doing in that particular tree or spot, you can't be confident and you can't, beat a buck, because with barriers and different things, the wind's going to take that milkweed and take various, your wind, and it's going to hit barriers and it's going to move the wind a certain way. And when you can watch that milkweed, sometimes as much as hundreds of yards, you can see where it turns. I mean, I'll watch my milkweed go 80 yards and then bend completely. And usually where that milkweed falls is where a buck's going to walk. It's insane. I love it. You learn so much that way. I've watched my milkweed go, and then hook and turn and drop. And I've watched bucks walk in that spot all the time. They're so smart that way. Isn't that it's just crazy to me. So, yeah, milkweed's the number one for me as far as just, something that I use as a tool. Gotcha.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, my biggest pet peeve is when guys talk down to one another about the style of hunting they choose to use because they think they know best or they know better. I hate when people talk down to each other. I'm a very positive guy. If you're ever around me, I keep it high energy, and I'm very positive. I just hate when people talk down to each other about, how they're hunting or what they're doing, just shooting people down. You're like, oh, you're doing this, oh, you're leaving. I love when people see me go live on a video or try and teach something to help somebody out, right? They're like, oh, idiot leg is sitting there leaving this, that, even though they don't know that it's like, an area that I'm not hunting or allowed to hunt, but I'm trying to teach somebody in that spot. People just, they think they know it all and they talk down to people. We as hunters need to come together. We need to be positive, and just remember at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. So that's my thing. I like people who are positive. I hate negative people. That's probably, a general pet peeve.
Gotcha. Okay. Craig, how old are you today?
I am 29.
What would the 29-year-old Craig tell the 18-year-old Craig, knowing what you know today?
Oh, man. Well, I would tell them stop hunting bait. Stop living off of trail cam pictures. As far as hunting goes, that's what I would tell them. 29-year-old Craig would tell 18-year-old Craig to, this is another thing. Everybody, if you have a close bond with a family member that hunts, like your dad or an uncle or someone older, spend every minute you can hunting with them, because one day, it could be a lot earlier than you wish, unfortunately you want it to be. You're going to lose someone in your life that, means everything to you. For me, that was my dad. And there were so many times where my dad and I wish I had hunted with him. Instead, I went to go film a hunt or have somebody film me. And, I was trying to make it. And I lost out on so many times where I wish I had just hunted with my dad. And those are memories, unfortunately, that I'll never get, be able to make or get back because he passed away suddenly. And that's what I would tell young Craig is slow down, enjoy family, and enjoy those moments because you can't get them back. That's what I would tell you guys. If you have good, like I said, get out there, hunt with your family member. You're going to have little fights and tips, but get out there and hunt with your, hunt with your family. You can never get those memories back.
Right. Yeah, that makes complete sense. You meet a stranger at a trade show or in an elevator, and they ask what you do for a living. What do you say?
I'm a police officer. That's what I do full time right now. So there's that, and then also started working with a company that I feel really good about, and they treat me super well. But Plano Synergy, I'm on the social media marketing team for them, and it's nice because I'm very friendly with everybody there, and I was friends with them first. We started hunting together and formed a bond, and then signed on with them. And I'm able to luckily use products that I believe in. They work great for me. They help me, take my hunting to such another level. And that's so between those two. I'm a police officer, and I'm a hunter. Those, the fine line there. I love them both very much, and I'm very passionate about each. So.
Gotcha. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
For breakfast, I had, it was great actually. The wife, she can cook, so she made she made venison sausage and potatoes and peppers and all these different things, and I had a bagel. I had a bagel toasted with cream cheese, and I had an iced coffee. I think
Julie and I pretty much start our day almost every day with a coffee. It's, for me, every day it's a cold brew, ice, the nice coffee. I can't drink hot coffee. That's the weird thing about me. It flushes me out. I get redder than the freaking fire hydrant. So, so I have to have iced coffee all the time, and that's pretty much how I always start my day with coffee. I think it may be a cop thing too, but no donuts here.
Gotcha.
You know where I was headed. I'm glad you answered that.
Yeah, no one likes a fat cop. I work out relentlessly, and that's something my family members. I was brought up into a law enforcement family, and everyone stayed in great shape all their lives, and that's something we take serious pride on. 99% of the battles when you step out of the cop car and save your life. They say, "Oh, I'm not messing with that guy," or just the level of respect. You get treated so much better, and people are willing to deal with you in such a better way when you keep pride in your appearance. So that's big for me. I have no donuts here, and I keep working out because your body is it's your machine when you're working patrol and you're dealing with people. So that's how I feel. Plus, when you're in good shape, you can hunt so much better. Oh my gosh, it just makes it so much more enjoyable when you're not stuck in wind in the mountains.
Yeah, for sure. You get your own billboard, a blank canvas. What would it say? What would you put on it?
Take a kid hunting.
Perfect.
Very good.
Yep. Yeah, take a kid hunting. It changed my life. There's one gift that my dad gave me, or if I ever was given a gift, it's that. Like I said, I can't imagine where I would be, who I'd be. It scares me to think about if I didn't have hunting. And the feelings, the adrenaline, and the gifts that I get from hunting still to this day. I feel bad for people who don't hunt. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do for fun. Fishing and hunting for me, everything. Great.
Perfect. I say the word successful. Who's the first person that pops in your head and why?
Successful. I've been very fortunate to make friends with and come in contact with some very successful people in the hunting industry. I guess first person comes to mind because I grew up watching him, and I learned so much of my base hunting from him was Mark Drury. I've been watching him since he was on VHS tapes, and he taught me so many different things about whitetail hunting and their behavior. And I definitely have taken a lot of bucks over the years from things Mark Drury's done, and I mean where he started to where he is now is just it's crazy. To see him from where he was back when he was shooting, 130s, 140s in Iowa on VHS tapes, and older camo and different things to where he's at now. He's just, man, that Drury Outdoors Army is just unstoppable. It's just something that's not going away, and he's just the mad scientist when it comes to whitetails. He's so successful, and he's just so many people back him because they believe in him. And I don't know. I guess that's someone I see as being successful. It's got a powerhouse going out there between Iowa and Missouri, and it's not going anywhere. So I would say that he is somebody that I think is very, very successful, both in the field and off.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. What's a day in the life of Craig look like? Run us through your day.
Oh, my day. Okay, I'm going to say a day when I'm working. Okay, so I patrol day. I switch every 2 weeks from night to day shift. It's very taxing on my sleep schedule. My body can't really get into a rhythm, but I prefer nights over days. I'm very proactive on patrol, so I enjoy the night more. I go out there, I tend to do my own thing, do a lot of interdiction, the narcotic stuff, that sort of thing. That's what I like to do. It's what I'm good at. So I enjoy it. I make work enjoyable, so it's very easy to go to work. I got guys that I really like. We're a family. We got each other's back. So I'm on shift. I'm doing my thing. Making things happen. And then when I'm off, I am constantly, scouting, reviewing pictures. I like to keep my contacts and like to, keep positive relationships with all my friends across the country. It's tough, but I make time for it. I make a lot of phone calls and catch up with all my friends all over the country all the time. And we talk, hours. I'm on the phone for hours. I feel like, it gets on certain individuals' nerves. They hate my phone. I think my wife hates my phone. But, that's how I, to keep positive relationships and good friendships, just, by keeping in touch with people. I love my time. My free time is very important to me as well. But it is spent, during the hunting season, I'm nonstop. I sacrifice so much sleep. I never really sleep during the hunting season because I'm working and hunting. My body definitely takes a toll. But, that's a day in life for me is I've been hunting almost every day now, and I'm able to achieve that because I'm hunting different trees, different properties all the time, nonstop, so that I'm not wearing out areas. I can hunt almost every day that way because I'm not limited to the stand I'm hanging. So yeah, that's pretty much a day in life for me. I'm going to work and hunt. If I'm off, I'm hunting. I'm hunting every afternoon, every evening.
Well, you about answered the last question there, but what's a hunting day look like in the life of Craig?
A hunting day for me. Well, now that over the past few years, now that I switched to the technique I do, a hunt fast and furious for me. I'm not sitting. Well, unless it's spread, I'll sit a lot longer. But on a normal day, when I'm hunting just a deer that in our bed, my hunts are only an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I'm spending an hour getting in, and then it's usually the time last hour and a half. I'm up a tree, doing exactly what I broke down before. Sticks in a lock on. And I'm sitting until just about dark. I'm able to. Usually, I'm expecting to see these deer before last light. So in that respect, I'm able to get down from the tree, pack up my stuff right at that really hazy light because they should have gotten past me already by then. So and then I'm getting my sticks and lock on and going out. In the first few times I did this, I was like, oh, it's a lot of work. It's not a lazy man's game, as I keep telling you. But once you get used to it, it's just like any other hunt, and you really don't think twice about it, and you enjoy it, So over time, that's the way I hunt. Like I said, sticks and a lock on in, sticks and a lock on out. The only time you don't see me do that is when I'm taking somebody hunting, maybe it doesn't get to hunt very much, or for the first time, or we're going to film something, just something off the wall. Then maybe we'll hunt a ground blind, or we'll do, we'll if we're going after does, maybe we'll hunt a beet field or something. But for the most part, when I'm hunting and I'm up the bat and it's the way I want to go, I'm doing sticks and a lock on in, sticks and a lock on out, no matter what. That's just always the way I do it. It's either going to be a bike in, I take a raft in, an inflatable raft. I've been taking down the river to get in the backside of a farm that is impossible to access from the field. Doing off the wall stuff. I like to try off the wall stuff because it's just so rewarding for me. So that's a hunt for me. They're never the same. No two hunts are ever the same for me. They're always just going to be something different, and I'm high energy. And anyone that's hunted with me and that knows me, they know that. So.
Oh, very cool. That wraps up my 10 rapid fire questions, Craig, and thank you for answering them and some great answers. And Jay, you got any more questions for Craig?
I don't have any other questions except for, Craig, where can we find more information about you on social media and places like that?
I keep my Facebook account very active. It's Craig Meyer, CraigMeyer on there, and I'm constantly updating that with hunting information, photos. I keep an Instagram account, Craig Meyer Hunt, Craig_Meyer_Hunt, and I'm updating that constantly. And then, like I said before, I work for Plano Synergy social media team, so I'm constantly going live and creating content for brands on their pages, on Instagram and Facebook pages. So you'll see, Wild Game Innovations, Maristep, Tenzing, Halo Optics, Barnett, Bloodsport Archery, Flexstone, a number of accounts, Plano brands, Evolve. You're going to see a lot of our content on there, and I'll go live on there a lot as it fits. Trying to give tips and tactics and help people out and try and be successful because we are all on the same team. And like I said, I want everyone to be enjoying hunts and getting so much out of it like I am. You want to get the most out of it. That's what you got to do. You got to help we all have to help each other out.
Gotcha. Craig, this has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on our show, and learned a lot tonight about hunting on bicycles. I got to say, it's a first for me.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I'm very passionate about this stuff, if you can tell. So thanks for having me. And like I said, it was an honor, and I love talking hunting with anybody that will listen.
Well, that's a first. I can't say I've heard of anybody actually riding a bicycle to engage a buck bed and a deer hunt, but it seems to be working for Craig. It seems like a lot of extra work, pedaling and bringing your hanging stand with you everywhere you go. But hey, man, it's working for him.
Yeah, it's super interesting how he gets in and out of the woods on the bicycle, and with him being a cop and trying to stay in shape, it just makes sense for somebody that's really physical active to be on the bike and pedaling your way into a hunt.
Very much so. There's no shortage of calorie burning on his side, that's for sure. I'm not sure I could keep up with that strategy, but I certainly appreciate what he's doing. So thanks to Craig Meyer for joining us on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week?
I sure do, Jay, and it's
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
a little bit more of something that's after season here, shed hunting. I'm going to give you my most favorable tip that I utilize when I'm shed hunting, and that's if you got a fence row that you know that your deer are regularly crossing, go check that spot. That's one place that you wouldn't think, like, why would there be sheds left at a fence row? Well, when that buck jumps the fence and it hits that frozen ground, boy, that's a great spot for that jolt of the fence jump when they land on their hooves. That jolt of the ground. If they got a loose antler, it's coming off when they hit the ground right there on that jump.
That's a great idea. That's the jolt that you might need, and that's where it's going to land, jumping a fence. Great idea, man. Great tip.
It's an amazing spot to look, for sure.
Yep. Well, Dusty, we're, as we mentioned in the preamble, we're heading to Vegas, so time for us to get on a plane and head out. Where can we find you when we're not hanging out in Vegas?
It's Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. And also look me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Best place is to touch base with me by email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. If you'd like to join our contingent of, we're just about to turn 250,000 fans, and believe it or not, we're about to turn 1 million downloads for our podcast here. So thank you for tuning in and joining us and digesting all the content that we bring each and every week. And if you'd like to continue consuming that, there are a few places you can check out. One is Facebook, facebook.com/Big Buck Registry. Twitter is twitter.com/Big Buck Registry. Instagram.com/Big Buck Registry. youtube.com/Big Buck Registry. You can kind of see the theme as I describe each of these. If you want to listen to the show, there are different places you can do it. One place is iTunes, bigbuckregistry.com/iTunes. You can go to iHeartRadio, same pattern. You can go to Stitcher. You can go to Blueberry. And each and every week, you can actually consume the audio by video on our YouTube channel. I mentioned that just a second ago. So that's basically everywhere we're at. And Dusty, I think that's it. But it's time to go, my friend.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Certainly is. I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.